Today's program brings us to one of the most magical places that we've ever been. It's the town of Carcassonne. It's a medieval fortified village in the south of France. It's an amazing place to visit, and in today's program we're going to spend the entire hour showing you all of the great highlights of Carcassonne. We'll take you inside the castle, we'll bring you on walks through the streets, all with Hawaii Geographic Society's World Traveler. And I'll be taking you along as we arrive by taxi at our wonderful hotel, Hotel de la Cité. We'll show you more of that in a little bit later in the program. Some splendid views of Carcassonne at night, all lit up by these amazing spotlights. You can see it during the daytime, and it's even more magical at nighttime. We're going to be showing you all the cycles of the day and tell you about the 2,000-year history of this amazing place. When you're visiting Carcassonne, you'll find it's very rewarding to stroll about on the lanes that are inside the village. It's not a large city by any means. The village itself is less than a mile long and about a half a mile wide, so it's easy to walk around inside the village and get a nice feeling for it. And there's enough there that you could easily spend a day or 2 days just wandering and looking at the shops and then taking a walk on the wall. Later in the program, we'll bring you on an extensive tour around these walls. From the top of the wall and from outside the walls, give you a real good perspective. It's one of the defining qualities of this city, created by the medieval walls around it. Now we're going to start out with a personal tour. This is Dennis Callan in Carcassonne, which is an amazing walled town in the southwest of France. It's a very picturesque spot, as you'll see. And we're very fortunate to have with us today Mr. Philippe Miro, who is the public relations spokesman for the town, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the background, and we'll take a little walk through town and you can tell us some about it. And you see we're starting with this an amazing castle behind us. And what's the story here, Philippe?
Dennis, first of all, thank you for coming in Carcassonne. You know, Carcassonne is a kind of medieval castle. This is the largest medieval castle in Europe. This castle was always habitated by people. That's to say, here, inside of this castle, there are still 100 people who live all the year round. And the son of the people who lived there centuries ago are still here. When you were born in La Cité, you die in La Cité. You've got just behind me the Count's Castle, in French, Le Château Comtal. This is the house of the king or of the lord. And if you watch in the foreground, you will see the new city of Carcassonne, called the Bastille de Saint-Louis. It was built in the 13th century by the King of France, Saint Louis. That's why the name Bastille, town, if you want, town Saint Louis.
A little bit later in the program, we're going to bring you down into the new town and show you the main town square on market day and have a little walkabout.
It's said to be the new city compared to this medieval castle. And here you've got really nice views of the Count's castle, the house of a count who lived here inside of this castle in the 14th century.
Amazing.
So the castle was built at the top of a hill. You can see the hill. It's just like a cliff. It's incredible. And you see, at the moment, it's one of the nicest. We arrive in front of the Count's castle. After this bridge, the Lord was living here, in this part. It was habitated until the 15th century. And at the moment, this is the museum of La Cité de Carcassonne.
And were there battles here? Did they have to fight and defend themselves here?
In fact, we had battles, but as you have seen, as the walls are very, very high, all the attackants stayed outside. So there were no battles inside of this castle.
It was well protected.
It was so well done that nobody managed to enter it. This is one of the nicest views. And you saw the bridge. We had never water.
No.
Never, just because we are at the top of one hill.
The whole village itself is like a castle, surrounded by the two walls that run around it. And then within the village is the actual castle itself, a fortified stronghold. You pay a small admission charge and go in for a tour. In the center of the walled town of Carcassonne is the castle, and so of course when you're visiting here you must go inside this medieval castle. It dates back to the 13th and 14th century, and it's a remarkable intact structure from the Middle Ages, and it's just one of the finest castles in all of Europe. So let's come on inside and have a look at the castle of Carcassonne. It's believed that this castle was first built from about the year 1130, which puts it deep into the Middle Ages. And then it was occupied for hundreds of years. It was the stronghold at the center of this amazing village of Carcassonne. Europe has many great castles, and certainly the castle of Carcassonne ranks right up there at the top with the best of them. The only thing comparable would be perhaps the Tower of London in England. This is really a medieval experience, and makes it well worth your trip to come down to the city of Carcassonne and spend some time touring through the old town and especially entering into the castle. As part of your admission to the castle, you're free to walk through the museum, and it's like being back in the Middle Ages. You walk from one room to the next, and these were the actual living spaces back in the 14th century, 15th century, when this was home to the Lord of the Manor. They have a wonderful exhibit with a series of Gothic fragments from architecture. They've got some statues, and they have the original wall interiors and ceilings. It's just an astonishing place. The arcade room has a Gothic window frame as well as these architectural fragments of columns. And the next room over is called the round room because of the barrel vaulted ceiling. Has a 16th century crucifix. An original wall mural dates back, they believe, to the 12th century, depicting a battle between the Christians and the Muslims, part of the ongoing struggle in this part of Europe in the Middle Ages. And the next room over is called the Romanesque room, and in the middle there is a wash basin that dates back to the 12th century. And around it there's coffins, there are stone sarcophagi, they're called, depicting some Christian iconography and more architectural fragments. The original round vaultings of the windows and door frames are visible there. And here's a wonderful model of the castle itself, showing the extent of the wall around the village. The village itself is not represented there, it's just the empty space, but you have a great view of the castle, looking very much the way it does today, about 800 years after it was built. And there's several exhibit rooms and, of course, a nice gift shop and bookstore is all part of your castle visit. The admission price to the castle includes a walking tour of the wall that's guided by a local expert. It's offered later in the day, so we'll come back to that a little bit later in the program. We're going to be showing you more of the village now with Philippe, our local expert. And we're going to take a walk around the outside of the walls and see more of the inside of the town.
You know, there are two walls in this medieval castle. One was built in the 3rd century, the other one was built in the 14th century. The outside wall was built in the 3rd century, and this one, the one you see at the moment, is from the 14th century.
Yeah. And then we took a walk inside the village.
At the moment, we are in the main street of La Cité. You can see you've got many shops who sells handcrafts made here on the site of La Cité. We arrive now at the Place Marcoux. The Place Marcoux is the real place where people come to have a drink. Usually you will find a lot of people here. La Place Marcoux is the absolute place where you need to go when you go to a show. After the show, people from Carcassonne and from quite everywhere go there just to have a drink. So you will find restaurants and bars open all year round. You can take a break and eat our famous cassoulet. I don't know if you heard about this famous regional plate. It's made of beans, pork, sausage, and this is the regional plate of the south of France, of this part of France, the cassoulet. You absolutely need to taste it, and I advise you to drink a good wine, because in the surrounding of La Cité, you've got many vineyards and wines coming from Corbière, Minervois, Fitou, which are quite the best known in the south of France. So this is the main square. You will find people here quite all along the year. And you've got many bars also. And behind the bars, there are some gardens. That's to say, if you don't want to live here on the square, you can have your privacy in the gardens. All around the square, restaurants and bars. Here, this is the main street. When you arrive in the cité, this is the main street. At the moment, it's easy to walk, yes. But if you come in another period of a year, it's quite difficult. Yes. I think this is the perfect season to visit Carcassonne, just because you can take time. The weather is quite good. You know, we're in the south of France. We are in the very, very south of France. That's to say, the average temperature is good. So in this street, you will meet a lot of shops from, for example, pastries or handicraft shops, and of course, souvenir shops. The sword, the famous sword. All the kids have their sword here in Carcassonne. Plastic sword. You know, all kids dream about being a king, and this is the perfect place.
Oh, there's something about castles that appeals to the kid in all of us. Really fires up the romance of the past. And it's really helped along by these costume guides who put on a show for the little kids and tell them some of the many legends associated with the spectacular castle of Carcassonne.
And we will see the main entrance with a drawbridge. The bridge was built after the construction of the first wall. So this is the very main entrance, and this is a drawbridge. So we had the main entrance of La Cité with a drawbridge, the original drawbridge from the 14th century. And here, if you see on the right side, you see Lady Dame Carcasse right here. She was the queen of the castle. And it's said that Carcasse, the name of this lady, gave the name of the town, Carcassonne. From this side, we can see the two walls. The first wall from the 3rd century and the second wall from the 14th century.
So why do they have two walls?
So at the very beginning, when the first was erected, there were no gunpowder. That's to say, one wall was sufficient. But after, in the 13th century, with the invention of the gunpowder, they need to build another wall to be an extra protection. You know, the castle is so big, the castle is so huge that nobody tried to fight here just because people knew that it was impossible to come inside of the castle. In the castle of Carcassonne, we've got 52 towers. Towers just like this one. These are the twin towers.
The towers had a variety of functions, but mostly, of course, it was for defense. So there would be armed defenders inside with their bows and arrows. There are usually 4 floors inside each tower, and there are slits in the tower walls so that they could be firing their bow and arrow out through the slits at the enemy attackers.
There was a wooden gate here, portcullis, a wooden door, right here, in case of invasion. But this was built exactly to avoid the invaders to come inside of a castle.
Here's one of the most beautiful parts of the outer castle wall. It's an embattlement that connects the inner wall with the outer wall, and there's these 2 beautiful Gothic arches that join it all together. A magnificent ensemble. We'll be joining Philippe for more walking tours later in the program.